On. Is it on? Is it on?
It looks
It
like it's
is.
fine.
Cool, cool,
I
cool.
see a
Yeah,
little
we're
countdown.
we're going. Yeah, well the thing is like one time I went live and everything was good and I always have my phone right next to me so I can make
Yeah.
sure that everything looks right.
Hmm.
And one time I did it and I went like 20 minutes in and I didn't realize that like literally nothing was working. My video was like frozen after like 30 seconds. My audio was like
Hmm.
and it was just like so bad. And that video ended up getting like a lot of views and it was really annoying because I wanted to refilm the video. My OCD kicked in. But anyways, we'll just get started. We'll let people trickle in. It's like middle of the day. Sometimes like middle of the day podcasts are hit or miss. Sometimes like 50 people show up, sometimes 20 people show up, sometimes nobody shows up.
I'm here for
But
it
either way,
all. I'm here if
yeah,
no one's here. I'm here just to talk to you.
hell yeah. Okay. Well, it's really nice to meet you, Katie, and I'm glad we're
Nice to
getting to
meet
talk
you.
face to face after buying your NFT a long ass time ago. Actually, it's been a minute since I bought your NFT.
Yeah, what? Like, I was actually laying on my front yard. Yes, most people I feel like hang out in their backyards. My partner and I, we hang out in our front yard. And I was laying out in the grass in my front yard and I got the notification and I just started jumping up. I was dancing. He was like, "What happened?" I was like, "One of my
That's the
NFTs sold."
best feeling ever. I remember when I
Really?
sold my first NFT, it was so much like that. Like I was door dashing. I was still living in my car. I was traveling the whole country doing my thing, and I was door
Mhm.
dashing. I had a pizza box next to me. I was delivering from Domino's, and I had a some kind of cookie cake thing from another. It was like a gourmet cookie cake ice cream thing, and I'm sitting there, and one's really hot, one's really cold. I've got like a cooler, and I've got my other bag, and I just get this ping on my email, and it's like so and so buy your OpenSea item just sold, and I was like, whoa, I sold one, cool. I had sold like two before that, and I was like, hell yeah, and then I just hear like ping, and I was like. With my phone, another item sold. I was like, "Whoa, wild! Like two sold in a minute." And then it was just like ping, and I was like, "Oh my god, ping, ping!" And then like the whole thing sold out because what had happened was the
How
first guy
wild.
who bought it was some famous dude on Twitter, and he tweeted it. And so I went on my phone, and I'm like freaking out. This was like in July or something, so like I had no idea about anything yet with NFTs, and it was fucking insane. It was just like ping, 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 and I, like immediately everything just started blowing up, and I was like, "Oh, oh!" And I'm like,
What's
"Shit,
happening?
the pizza!" And I was like, "Oh my god!" So I put my phone down, I delivered the food,
That is
instantly
pure
closed
work.
out my shift, and I was like, "Holy shit!" And I parked in like a Walmart parking lot and just like was on my phone the rest of the day. But
Oh
like
yeah.
but I was like trying to do NFTs at that point. I was like trying to make sales and like be someone NFTs. Like what is your angle with NFTs? Because you came in, you're a yoga teacher, you're an artist, you're like teaching, and then like you do NFTs, you do art on the side. What was the NFT goal there? I guess.
Yeah, so I guess I'll give a brief little background and we can always trickle back into it. But so I went to school to be an art teacher. So I am an art teacher. I teach young children art from like, I've taught, little kids, but currently I'm teaching 6th through 12th grade. And so that's amazing. Love being an art teacher. But I'm also an artist. I'm also a yogi. And so I want to really make what I do, my art, my creations be, my thing. I want people to know who I am. And so with painting, because I'm a painter, I'm also a screen printer. And then, now also a digital artist. And
Oh
so for
yeah.
the first many, many years of my artistry, I was, mostly painting or screen printing. And so making things, that uh, people are going to, be able to get at a market or a store or connect with me on social media. But, that's for the most part, people kind of have to know you, in
Mm,
real life, mostly when you first get started as like a 2D artist, painting, whatever it
yeah.
is. But with NFT, it's like there's this whole world of people that are just going to be so open to who you are, what type of art you're making, listening to your story. And so, any opportunity, the universe presents me to create art, to sell art, to showcase my art, I'm gonna at least attempt to seize it.
Yeah.
And so my partner, he's really into crypto. Um, and he probably got into crypto, I don't many years ago, but like really was getting into it in the past couple of years. And so he and I kind of made this deal with each other that our ultimate collaboration together would be him teaching me about crypto and the NFT space, and that I would start, transforming my art into NFT. And
Hell yeah.
so, yeah, he's amazing. And so he was kind of the kick in the butt. And so like I said, I'm a painter, screen printer, obviously like illustration, but I wasn't in the digital realm just yet. So I knew that to get into NFT, I really had to like get digital.
Yeah.
And so my big Christmas present this year from my partner was the iPad Pro.
Let's
And
go.
immediately, like I just started creating
Okay, wait.
so much art. Yeah. Oh yeah.
Hell yeah. I mean, my iPad's right over there. I love it. It's the best thing ever.
Making
I
magic.
have more time, but this thing is wild. You're just sitting there and you just draw a line, and it's just like drawing in real life.
Yeah.
But like, I've never been an artist before, so for me to be able to do that is so crazy because I'm really, really not good at drawing anything spectacular. And so being able to do this and like seeing things just come out of it, it's insane. I love it.
It's magic, baby. It's magic.
Love it.
So, yeah. So, we're kind of thinking. My mind's always thinking of creative art ideas when I wake up in the morning, when I go to sleep at night, while I'm doing yoga. Yoga is a huge source of artistic inspiration for me. We can touch back on that.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh yeah. And so I was like, what am I going to do in the NFT world? And so I use Procreate too. I see Ronaldo thrown up in the chat. So I was like, what am I going to make for NFT? And so my partner Jake, he was like, characters. Like everyone's kind of like making these characters. You can have like a collection where you can have little differences about them. And this is when, I was totally new to it. So, now I know that you can make an NFT of anything. You don't have, it doesn't have to be a character. And you can make one of ones, you don't have to have a collection even. And so, but I knew that I wanted a collection, and I knew I did want something that was like kind of a character, but Katy version of a character. And so for years I've been creating art, and I, one day I just had like, the idea just hit me. I was like, what if I take paintings that I've created in the past and revamp them, transform them into the digital realm? And pretty much all my paintings have some like main character, whether it's an animal, whether it is a female, whether it is, a sun or a moon with a face on it.
Yeah, and so I've got it right here too.
Oh yeah, you can pull it up.
Kaleidoscope Visions. All the links are in the description, by the way. You guys have all of the links for everything, for all her stuff in the description. But this is one of the ones these ones I have my mouse around. I have one of the versions of this. Mine is a blue one here. I'm gonna close out and show the people mine real quick, just so people can.
So Lana,
this is the one I purchased.
Oh yeah, she was one of my very first.
Love it.
I could like tear up with that one right there. One of my absolute favorites, hands down, that I've ever made, and I've made so many now. Like, there's I think I only have like 6 or 7 on Soulsea, but like. In the next year, there could be 120 on there, that I've created, and so many more to be made. But yeah, so I was taking the like main subject from my physical paintings, taking like a high quality photo of it, and then putting it onto Procreate and secluding that. Whatever it was, whether it's a female face, whether it's an animal, whether it was the moon in the sky, the sun, and then I create a kaleidoscope version of that original artwork and make it the background. And that's where the fun collection can come into play, because I can make hundreds of different kaleidoscope backgrounds. And so the main subject will always be the same, but the kaleidoscope background can be wildly different, which is so fun to play around with all the different versions and variations of that kaleidoscope.
Yeah, I absolutely fucking loved it. And then I remember when I was reading through some of the descriptions, which by the way, for people listening, when you're buying NFTs, especially from artists, like I have 2 collections and they're art collections, and they've kind of become my access keys. But in the description, I like kind of like wrote some shit about it. Like I wrote some things that were like kind of personal, especially in my alternates. If you go through them, there's a lot of them with like videos attached to them. But you talked a lot about yin and yang and the give and take with masculine and feminine. And
Mhm.
I love this topic because I found out about this after, well, not after, like after a point where I didn't have anyone really to talk about it with and bounce ideas off of, because I just don't know anyone who's into that stuff, or maybe I do and I just
Yeah.
haven't like reached out. But I'd love to just talk to you about that stuff.
Oh yeah. Let's talk about it.
Go
So,
for it. Yeah, go for it.
of course. So, kind of a little background, and just preface yoga. I mean, the lineage of yoga is thousands upon thousands of years. They don't even know when yoga began. And all these ancient yogic philosophies that still hold true today, and that I'm still learning. I'm still learning. Like, I am
Yeah.
no master. I will never be a yoga master, but I will always strive to keep learning. So, just preface.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, so yoga. So there's all different limbs of yoga. Yoga is not just the physical postures that you see people doing. Yoga is not just meditation. Yoga is not just breath work.
Mhm.
Yoga is about, like mastering our mind, our emotions, and doing that through connecting our body, our mind, and our breath. And so yoga stands for unity, and it is ultimately the unity of the body and the breath and the mind. And so there's 8 main limbs of yoga. One of those limbs is the asanas, which are the physical poses. And so then, and tell me to stop talking if I'm ever like saying anything confusing, but one of the main styles of yoga is called hatha yoga. And hatha means balance. And that balance is the balance between the yin and the yang, the masculine and the feminine, the solar, the lunar. So our body is broken up into our left and our right, the left and right hemispheres of our body and our mind. And our left side is our lunar side, or our feminine side. And our right side is our solar, or our masculine. So then, the sun and the moon come into play. And feminine and masculine doesn't necessarily mean female and male.
Yeah.
And, every single person has both masculine and feminine energies. And feminine energies don't also mean like beautiful and dainty. Feminine energies a lot of times mean, being restorative, being more peaceful, being more artistic. So they say like left-sided brain or left side of the body, like people, or people that are, like more artistic.
Yeah.
And, so like art comes into play with like the feminine energies, being more calm, in tune with your emotions. Whereas the masculine is about, power and strength, being in tune with your physical body, being confident. It doesn't mean like being aggressive or being more manly. And so it's really incredible, when you meet a female or a male who believes so strongly that they are tapped into both their feminine and their masculine, and that, they can say that with confidence. And I think once people start to learn like what it really means, femininity and masculinity in like the yogic philosophy, they're like, oh wow, yeah. I am tapped into both my feminine and my masculine. And
So, that's exactly where I was at too, because I was like, people would, or I guess it's not really taught in school or anything like that. So like I didn't take a yoga class or even learn about anything related to this stuff until college. I feel like I wasn't even awake until I got like my heart shattered in college. But I was just focused on like soccer and conquering. And I think, I don't know who it was who explained it in a podcast or something, but they explained just kind of how you said it. They were like, your masculine and your right side is about conquering and winning. And that's why when you're doing too much work, you're just like, oh, I just need a break. I just need to like stop and like hang on. That's literally like the physical manifestation of the balance. And then when you're like ultra zened out, that's good for a while, but then you're like, okay, I probably should like gotta make some money because I gotta pay rent kind of thing, and then you have to
Mm-hmm.
like kind of, and then if you go too far in, you always have to come back, and it's like it just makes logical sense, and that was where my brain started to make the connection because I've always thought logically because that's the way I was brought up. And then now that I've become a way more spiritual and like kind of trying to delve into both sides and try and figure out how they can link together, but more so how I can help people understand it in a way where it makes sense. Because I feel like growing up, I never had the person helping me telling me which way is right. I just kind of was guessing and hoping I was somewhere in the right ballpark. And I was like, that's fucking annoying. Like, why do I have to keep guessing at everything? Like, why doesn't anyone just say it in a way where it makes sense? And then I started listening to podcasts, people like you talking about it. And that's why I was so excited to talk to you. And Sadhguru said this about yoga, and this is like my one like ultra specific question. He said that because this is very physical for the yoga,
Mm.
this question, and he said a lot of yoga masters will master, not even master, they're just like, they just like pick one position and they just sit in that position for like 3 hours, and to them like that's ultra yoga or something. And I was like, oh, so I could just pick like downward dog and just sit there for 3 hours? Is that a thing?
So there's, like I said, different styles of yoga, and yin yoga is purposefully holding one specific pose for a very long time. And you're not typically going to hold like the really challenging
Yeah.
poses like for a long time. You're going to choose one of the more restorative poses to do for a long time. Um, I wouldn't say that that means you're a master of yoga.
Yeah.
But like every single person has their own yoga journey and their own goals with what they eventually reach with and through yoga. My style of yoga is very dance-like. I'm very into fluidity. Trust me, I love doing all the different styles, but like my natural, flow is going to be to just intuitively to move in whatever way my body's craving, and to tap into what we call the creative energy channels in our body.
Yeah.
And this is how I can kind of tie in art. Is like I love creating, I love flowing, I love experimenting, not just in yoga, but in art. It's just like who I am. I love finding new ways to explore and play and be curious. And so when I do yoga and when I teach yoga, that is something that I'm encouraging my students and the people that are practicing yoga with me to do, is like in one pose, don't just hold it. Explore, see how your body can move. Like, don't just, don't just listen to what I'm telling you to do.
Yeah.
Figure out like, what do you want to do in any given moment? And so, yoga for me is a chance to play. It's a chance to challenge myself. Of course, like that quote was saying, ultimately challenging yourself to hold one pose for a long time. But you can challenge yourself in so many ways in yoga. And it's not just by doing the hardest pose. Sometimes the hardest thing is just sitting in Sukhasana. And Sukhasana is easy seated pose, kind of like Indian style pose.
Oh, yeah.
Literally just sitting there and focusing on your breath. That can be really freaking hard for some people. Or like my partner, child's pose is one of the hardest poses for him because he has bad knees. He has bad knees. Whereas other people are like, child's pose, oh yeah, please.
I love child's pose.
Yeah, it's amazing.
I love that shit.
But
funny.
Yeah, when people talk about like, the best yoga or the most challenging yoga, it's like, okay, amazing for you, but don't push that on other people, and don't make other people think that like they need to see that as, being the best yogi by doing something challenging.
Can I say he said also that I think his reasoning there was for the way he put it. It was something along the lines of, when you hold that pose for a long time, he was like, it takes your physical body out of the situation. He goes, because when you're moving the whole time, you're focusing on the physical. So I think maybe his point was more for the meditative aspect of it. And for me, that's better. Like the reason it's been hard for me to do yoga is because I don't practice enough of the yoga to make it something that is easy to, like, I'm sure for you, it's just easy as fuck. You just go and you do your thing. You don't even need to think about it. It's just flow. But for me, getting into the flow is the hardest part. But for me, getting into the meditative flow is the easy part. I can easily close
Mm,
my eyes because I've worked on that for years. I'm like level 2 so far on Reiki. I'm trying to become a Reiki
amazing.
master, so that's what I'm doing. But I've always been good for that side. It's just been the physical part that I suck at. And I took a yoga
Yeah.
class in college, and I'm sitting there like dying the whole time because he's like, hold this pose and like move in here, and I'm just like, dude, this is not like how I do this. This is awful. Like I'm just sitting here thinking about the fact that I am in pain the whole time. So what do you have? Do you have any advice for that for me?
Yeah, so let me trickle back because you're
Yeah.
totally right. I took what you originally said and I was like, oh yeah, I took the word you said challenge now,
Mm.
spun with that. But you're so right. Yin yoga, that idea of just holding one single pose, you get to, your mind is going to soar because you're just holding this pose, and sometimes it can start to feel really really challenging to just hold
Yeah.
something, and that is when yoga forces you to conquer your mind, to just hold that pose, because you have to sit in that feeling of, I'm just holding this, I'm gonna just keep holding this.
Yeah.
And that's when then you start to notice your emotions, the way that your mind is thinking. And the whole purpose
Mm.
of yoga is to, and as you know with meditation, the whole purpose is to just notice those thoughts, not to
Mhm.
judge them, but to notice them and to then gain an awareness of, what mental state that you're in, while then physically also being in that yoga pose.
That's
Um,
so interesting. So when you're distressed and noticing those thoughts, because for me it's easy when I'm meditating because I'm chilling and I'm like, oh, I'm very in control of my thoughts. But when I'm sitting there in pain, I'm like, I cannot meditate right now.
that
That's
is
so
what
true.
that is what is forcing you to mentally be challenged,
Yeah.
um, and
Wow.
ultimately, like, you also can, so the way I love to think about it is coming out on the other side of any type of physical yoga, or whatever your version of meditation is, whatever your version of
Mhm.
movement is, you always know you're going to feel better on the other side. You
Mm.
always know that you're going to have like that good feeling of, yes, I did it. I, challenged myself today. I moved today. Or, you just feel a little bit better, after you do whatever that movement is. And so when you are,
Hold on, it may have cut out.
yourself, oh, it looks like, could you
Yeah,
hear me?
it cut out for like 3 seconds. Yeah, just like the last sentence probably.
Who knows? Who knows what I was saying? Um, but just, the things that can play through your mind are things like, as simple as it is, like, you got
Yeah.
this, it's going to be better when it all ends. It's going to end eventually.
Hmm.
And thinking of the fact that, like, wow, this is so cool that I am challenging myself, that I am giving myself this opportunity to, become a better version of me. And,
Hmm.
easier said than done, of course.
Yeah.
But the mind chatter, or the monkey mind, is what we call, your thoughts
Yeah.
racing during yoga. And that ultimately is what we are trying to master in yoga, not necessarily the challenging poses. It's the mind conversation that you are
Mm.
having with yourself, and not judging other people that are around you, or not judging your version of yoga to others, but like only reflecting on what is going on for you and you alone.
Yeah. That's a really good way to put it because that made a lot of sense for me. For someone who, so I know there's probably a lot of people. I would say the majority of people aren't doing yoga, just as a daily basis, just because it's freaking hard. I don't think there's enough like mainstream people talking about it enough. So I would love to get that conversation going. But for people that I know in the NFT space, or from what I've seen, there's a lot of people who go to the gym. They love grinding those
Mm,
curls out. They love doing the bench press, deadlifting, all that stuff. And for them, I can understand that because I was a bodybuilder for a long time. I get that the whole shtick, and it's very similar with the whole pushing yourself through it. You're like on rep 12, you're like 4 more.
yeah.
If they're already doing that and they're going to the gym for an hour and a half a day, does the yoga make sense to do the other side where it's the yin yoga where you're trying to control the mind versus doing more of that? Or would you say to do both still?
Um, I also come from a lifestyle of loving, the more fast-paced movement as well. My mom is actually like a workout instructor. So I got
Oh, no way.
and she's a yogi as well. So I got to like grow up with a mom who's like super into fitness.
So cool.
And that was
So
like
cool.
so a part of my family's life, was like, working out and, doing like the intense workouts, challenging myself with running and, lifting and all that stuff. So trust me, I love that part of fitness and movement just as much as yoga. But yeah, yoga isn't so much for me about, of course, it is a physical thing. It 1000% is a physical thing, but really ultimately it's like a mind thing to mentally get that yoga high, to get that sensation of feeling like so euphoric and so connected to myself, my body, my breath. So if I had to give people who are really into like the fitness, into weightlifting and or running or going to the gym, I feel like they've already like used up their time in their day, that they like don't have any more time to do yoga, start with like some breath work, because breath work is definitely yoga. It definitely is yoga. And also stretch. I really hope that people who are, doing like weightlifting and running are also stretching.
Mm-hmm.
I know it can be, the last thing you want to do. You just want to leave once you feel like you've finished.
Yeah.
But breath work is amazing. And there's so many different breathing techniques out there. And breath work is ultimately about like mastering your mind. If you wanted, we could even do a little breath work right here, right now.
I'm 100% down. I love breath work is my shit. And also with the gym, I've always been that way where at the end, I'm like, I'll stretch later. I'll stretch next time. But over the years, after I've gotten bored almost of doing the same weightlifting routines, I'm like, you know what? I start to switch out of the hour and a half straight of lifting and go to more like 45 minutes of lifting and then like 30 minutes of stretching and just kind of like sitting in the stretches. And that actually feels amazing. And the thing is, like, you don't lose that much. Like that extra 30 minutes of lifting, you're barely even working hard anyway. Those last like 30. So it's just like, you might as well go do something different that's actually going to help you. And I've loved that. So I'm definitely down. If you guys are watching and you guys want to follow along, do some breathwork with us, do it. Let's do this shit.
Okay. So let me think, which breathwork should we do? The first one that's coming to my mind is called Sitali. And the reason I'm also thinking we should do this one is because I feel like it's one that you can do in any given moment. You could do this in the car. You could do this, you don't have to be in a space where like you have your yoga mat or anything like that. And so Sitali is a cooling breath. So it can cool your physical body, calm you down. Mentally, can, just make you feel more at ease, more calm. If you're frustrated, it can help you when, you're feeling tense or aggravated, traffic is pissing you off, work is pissing you off. But also like if you're like hot, it can actually quench your thirst. So,
oh my God, say less. I'm ready. I'm ready.
Your thirst. And so I'll give you a little history of it. So the ancient sages, like thousands of years ago, they looked to nature to master the body and the mind, like to discover things from animals, from plants, like, okay, how can we incorporate that as humans? Yeah. And so for Sitali, they looked to like leaves and the beak of a bird to, learn how to cool the body. So I'll demonstrate first because I can't really speak while I'm demonstrating. Basically, you're going to curl your tongue like this. And then you're going to sip in through the tongue, pause at the top of the inhale, close your mouth, exhale through the nose. So.
Oh, I love that.
You're always trying to lengthen your inhales and your exhales. And a part of breath work isn't just inhaling and exhaling, but it's also being able to hold and retain the breath. So sipping in that air through the tongue, pausing at the top of the breath, and then when you're ready to exhale, releasing all of the air. And so by curling the tongue like that and sipping it in through like your moist tongue, that's the idea of like quenching your thirst and cooling you down because you're sipping in that cool air through your tongue. So I'm going to do it a couple times because it's literally a bliss breath. Like they call it the bliss breath because it can leave you feeling well, one, it can give you a love for solitude. Like you can, if you're ever like feeling lonely, doing this can also like make you feel more okay with being alone.
Hell yeah.
Calmer, de-stress you, cool you down. So yeah, it's the bliss breath, it's the cooling breath, and it's Sitali. So
I
yeah,
love that. I freaking love
awesome.
that. My body's naturally hotter. Like my mom has always made fun of me. She's like, as soon as you walk in the room, the temperature goes up. Like my actual
You
blood is like
exude
hot.
body heat.
I don't know what it is. Yeah, and all my girlfriends have said the same. I've always been the best for cuddling because I'm always my
Aw.
body is hot. And so that's been helpful there. But it sucks when I remember when I was growing up, like I was always the kid sweating the most at like PE class. So it's like super embarrassing because I'm always sweaty.
Always one of
Um,
those.
literally, that was me. That was literally me. That was actually really really nice. And for me, like breathwork's always been something I've been in tune with just because I played sports. I played college soccer, and so you had no choice
Awesome.
but to be able to control your breath because you're going to die if you don't. You're running on the thing. You have to be able to slow your breath down and control yourself. And I did the Wim Hof method. I learned how to do
Heck
that.
yeah.
The very first time I tried it, it held my breath for 4.5 minutes, and I remember being shocked. I was like, "Am I breathing?
Because you
Like, there's
got
no
great
way."
lungs from all the, fitness
I
you've
guess
done.
so. Yeah, but that breath we just did. Should we? Is there like a thing that you do for that, or do we just kind of
No
like?
type of hand movements at all. You can literally just make sure you're kind of sitting up tall, sitting up high on your sits bones. Open up your heart. Lift the crown of the head high up towards the sky.
Hmm.
And if you're feeling like doing some type of mudra, you can do a
Yeah,
mudra.
what is that?
So
Because people look at that and they judge people, I'm sure, when they see this, because it's like classic, you know.
I would never judge anyone.
Well, I'm just saying, people like when you see this. This is the classic yoga. Everyone sits
Yes,
there
that
and they
is
do
the
om,
classic.
but I don't
That
think
is
people know
the
what it is.
home. That is
Yeah.
the home symbol. Yes. To be honest, like I definitely know different mudras, but that's not something that I've even like. I need to dive more into mudras myself. But a mudra is a hand gesture, and so the
Mm,
way that you can like literally physically just place your hand in all these different like gestures and stuff can have an impact on your physicality, on your mentality. And a lot of things people might be like, oh, yeah, sure. But a
mm,
lot of things in yoga are subtle, and we're tapping into our subtle energy channels. And
yeah.
so it also takes repetition and it takes doing something kind of consistently until you really see notice
Hmm.
with a lot of these, subtle breath work, mudras, poses. But yeah, that is the Om mudra.
Yeah, we in Reiki we have a similar thing where it's like a symbol, and when you like do it in your head, and then after you do it
Mm,
a certain amount of times, you can kind of just picture it, and
mm,
then you just picture like being in the palm of your hand. You're able to either touch your head or surround your head and kind of get that energy field going,
yeah,
and it's amazing. Once you've done it enough times, it's just like yoga, I guess. It's just once you do it enough times, you don't even have to like think about it. It's just
tap into
there.
it.
Yeah, you can
How
just tap
cool.
into it, and so
How
that's
cool.
been like revolutionary for me, honestly. But do you want to do like a minute of that breath work? I'm totally down.
Sure. Heck
Okay.
yeah.
All right.
So
I'm gonna
yeah,
put it in the
close your
chat.
eyes when you do it as well. I mean, unless if you're like, in a public place where you like can't be
Yeah.
closing your eyes or something. I don't know. But always close
Cool.
your eyes. It really helps you to
Close
tune
your
in.
eyes. Right on. All
So
right. So we'll
yes,
go for a minute or something.
Sitali Pranayama.
Hell yeah. Okay. Okay. That was amazing. Oh my God.
I'm telling you, yeah, I have to like, it really, 1 minute, man. And I can't even speak after because I'm just
Man,
blissed out.
Monkey says this is some alien cult shit. Oh my
If it's a
God,
goal, I'll
man,
join.
100%. No, the breathwork stuff is amazing.
Yeah.
Man, yeah, that is really nice. There was something I was gonna say when I was thinking about that. With breathwork, like when you're like I guess it's just tips I picked up from different breathwork people that I've seen online, and I don't know, they just like explain but there's is it not body breathing? It's like when you breathe into your stomach versus your chest, and there's
Mm.
different like reasons to do both, and you can breathe in like one thing I learned is I think I breathe in through my chest first, and it fills up quick because there's not as much room. I feel like, and then I'm able to like open up my stomach, and I can breathe like super deep into that, and then I'm
Yeah.
able to just like hold that there. But do you have anything as far as like the breathing into the stomach versus chest? Like I don't.
Yeah. So you might have heard me call it pranayama. And pranayama is the Sanskrit word for breath work. And when you break down pranayama, prana is our life force, our energy, and that is our breath. Our life force
Mhm.
energy is our breath. And yama is control, but yama is also expansion. Did I freeze for a second?
Just for like 5 seconds, like it's just like one
Okay.
sentence.
So yeah, I think I caught.
Oh no, hold on. Um,
Pause it
yeah,
again.
pause again. Hold on one sec. It might. I can't tell if it's me or.
I have a 7 out of 10 connection. Is that
Okay.
not good enough?
No, that should be fine. It's probably just I don't even know. My dad's probably streaming somewhere else over there too, so it might just be both of us. But
My partner also works from home, so who
yeah,
knows? It could be a mixture of both of us.
probably.
But yeah, so breath work, you want to be able to feel that expansion all throughout your body. And so something cool about breath work is the visualization part of it. So as you breathe in air, like you said with Reiki, like the idea of visualizing like the energies, you can kind of feel it, of course, traveling through your nose, down your throat. But then ultimately, yeah, like if you're breathing into your belly, your lungs, your heart, then you're going to have like the most, sensation that you feel. And yeah, there's different ways, and every different type of breath work can be different. Sometimes you may breathe from chest into belly. Other times you may try to breathe from belly into chest. And
Oh wait, no, I
ultimately,
do breathe into belly to chest. Actually, it's not
yeah,
chest to belly. It is belly to chest. You're right.
likely it's probably belly
Yeah,
first. And so
yeah,
kind of feeling your belly expand, then it traveling up to the
yeah, yeah,
middle
yeah, yeah.
body, then to the heart, and then kind of doing it back in that same order. So then feeling like the heart, then softening the belly. Um, so yeah, like incorporating that idea of expansion into your breath. And what I like to say during yoga is prana is like that tingling sensation. So if you ever start to
Yeah.
feel like a tingle in your fingers or like throughout your body or like a tingle on your nose, like if you scrunch up your nose and stuff like that, that is prana. And so when you're breathing, and pranayama doesn't have to look like that sitali breath that we just did where you're curling your tongue, or it
Yeah.
doesn't have to look or feel or sound like the Wim Hof method. Pranayama and tapping into your breath can literally just be conscious, deep breathing, where you're just noticing your breath. You're trying to expand your inhales and completely release on your exhales. So yeah, prana definitely does not, pranayama doesn't have to be any particular way. It doesn't have to be fancy.
Yeah.
It can be simple, but it will still be super duper effective and impactful.
Yeah, 100%. And I was gonna say, because I didn't, well, I looked at you for like 2 seconds, but then I closed my eyes when we started. But I was wondering what you do with your hands, because my natural immediately
Mm,
is I put my hands down. It's either in my lap, but just now it's sitting on my desk, so it was just on my desk. But my hands are always like this,
yeah.
and it's weird because ever since I was a young kid, I've always it sounds super hippie, but like I love the idea of the in this I think it's the Sorcerer's Stone, Harry Potter, the ruby. And
Uh-huh.
so my I forget where I got this rock thing like forever ago. And I'm not one of those people who knows like I have no idea what the rose quartz even is or what it does or anything. But I like having this, and a lot of times I won't even hold it, but I can visualize something in the right hand. But I never have visualized anything in the left hand. I don't know if that's symbolic of like this is like whatever,
Wow.
but I've always done this, and I've
Yeah.
always imagined something in my right hand, and my left hand's always empty. But that's my go-to. I don't know what yours is,
How
but
cool. That's so interesting. I love that you have that whole visualization that goes along with it. So, in terms of the hands, a lot of people will either have their palms face down on their thighs or their knees, or like you, palms face up. And so, the whole kind of symbolism that goes along with that is palms face down is you want to feel more grounded. You want to have
yeah.
a sense of rooting down, grounding into the earth. Whereas palms face up is you're kind of like open to receiving. You're open to
Mhm.
learning. You're open to whatever possibilities, and emotions might come into play. So kind of like in any given day, you might one day palms face down. I'm feeling like I want more grounding. I want to feel more
Yeah.
rooted. Another day you might be like palms face up. I'm open. What do I got to learn today?
Yeah.
So yeah, that.
Oh yeah. Hold it broke up, but I think you got that last bit of the sentence before it broke up. Um, hold on. Yeah, no. So I think what it is, I just noticed it's your network connection. Most of the time, it's 10 out of 10, which is when we're normally talking, and then it just if it goes in and out from 10 all the way to 0. Like right now, it says 0, but somehow you're going. Oh, never mind. Then you froze. Hold on, guys. It'll come back in a couple seconds. It's one of those Wi-Fi things. Wi-Fi routers make no sense either. Wi-Fi routers do this. Mine does this all the time in all my YouTube lives. So just go in and out. Oh,
Yeah,
you're back.
you're right. It'll go from 0 to 7.
It might just be a small patch. Hold on. Here, Katie. I don't know if you can hear me right now, but if you may try turning off your Wi-Fi and then turning it back on for a moment, or actually, it might be back now. There we go. It's back, and it's back off. Hold on. Bear with us, fam. We're gonna figure this out. One sec. Were you able to hear what I had said, Katie?
I was hearing a little bit of it. We keep going back and forth.
Yeah, I was gonna say you might try. Oh, hold on, it's coming back. 7 out of 10. Okay, that's just the average. There we go. If it keeps doing this though, you can try and turning off your Wi-Fi and back on, like sometimes that works. But it looks like
Okay.
it's okay now. But what I was gonna say is my hands are always up, and I think it's because my entire life I've always been my clouds in the heads of, or my head's in the clouds. I'm always dreaming. I'm always like visualization has been my everything. Like I believe it to the core of myself. Everything in my life that I've ever wanted has always been visualized. Like 10 years prior, I wanted to do
Oh,
YouTube
cool.
since I was like 11 years old. I wanted to play college soccer since I was like 10 years old. I've wanted to do everything, and it takes like forever. But the visualization is like key for me, and I think a lot of people. I don't know how common visualization is, because I know people either confuse it with daydreaming, or they think that if they've visualized it like once that counts or something. But I've visualized in my head like 24/7, like
Okay.
subconsciously,
Okay.
always thinking about it. So I think it makes sense that my hands are always like this, because I always want to like explore. And I saw someone, it was some physicist person, they were like, what is the meaning of like life or universe? And he was like, I think the meaning of the universe is the universe just wants to explore every possibility. It's like water. When you allow water to just go, it just fills in every crevice no matter what. And
How
that made
cool.
sense to me, because that's what Reiki is. Like all I'm doing with Reiki is I'm the key holder. I just open the door and Reiki does its thing. And
Yeah.
then when we're done, I close the door and Reiki does its thing somewhere else in the universe. But I was wondering what your thoughts are on what you think the universe purpose is, or if there's a purpose.
Oh my gosh, that's a loaded question. So I definitely believe in the power of the universe, in our connection to the universe, in how my connection to other people, to the environment, to whether it is huge things like the sun and the moon and the ocean, or much smaller things, like the way that I treat the nature in my yard, or my whatever it is. I just really feel a connection to that. And I am not someone who could dive into the explanation for all these things. It's just something that like I so wholeheartedly believe in, is our connection to the universe and the oneness. And so, yeah, I think visualization is something that definitely not everyone experiences. I think everyone does have some way of, tapping into their higher self, or tapping into their connection to the universe in their own mind. For some people, it's visualization. For other people, who knows what it is. I'm definitely a visualization person, so I don't really know what it is for other people, honestly. But yeah, it is so powerful, the ability to be able to kind of just like see something that you want and then be able to bring it to fruition, simply because you've given so much love and passion to it, like in your own thoughts. And I think that's like the whole idea also of manifestation. And I think manifestation has also become something that is very almost like mainstream these days. But that's also great, like I don't give a rip if something like that becomes mainstream. I think it's a great thing. It means more people are wanting to become better versions of themselves, and heck yeah for that. But yeah, that's really special that you are such a visualizer. Yeah, daydreaming versus visualizing, they're probably the same thing.
They probably
I don't think that you could really differentiate between the two. I think one, maybe visualization might be more like purposeful. You may be, you have an intention behind it, whereas daydreaming could just be your subconscious doing that visualizing, something that your inner self knows about you that maybe you don't even know about yourself just yet, which would be a really cool thing.
Definitely.
So yeah, I wish I had better.
No, I mean there's no answer. I just wanted to hear you talk about it.
I have so much more to say. I'm just like at a loss for words, honestly. In giving off positive energy, I truly believe is something that will then be returned to you. Giving kindness to other people will be returned to you. In terms of how we treat the universe, that will be given back to you. All of those things are things that I definitely believe.
Yeah, and with that's actually going into what I want to talk about next, which was intention, which I think is for me in my life at least, is without a doubt the biggest driving force behind everything. Because with the manifestation, the daydreaming that I've done my whole life, the intention is where everything happens. Like me going to play soccer and intentionally going to become better at this one thing that I'm practicing for the next 6 months is the reason I was able to go play college soccer. It was the reason I was able to be successful and get the body I wanted a few years ago. It is the reason that YouTube finally worked, because the last year it didn't work for 10 years. And then I was like, okay, no, this is it. Like, I'm doing this for real. Like, there's a year ago where I made a video called 5 minutes the rest of your life, where I just sat there and I was like, this is it. Like, I'm really, really going to do this thing. But I didn't just like say that and not do anything. Like, I intentionally for the next year grinding my ass off. And then when I went on my trip, it was like very intentional. I was like, I'm going for a specific reason. I'm going to fucking find myself. I don't know what that even means, but that is the intention. And with that intention, everything else follows, and everything like happens exactly as it's supposed to happen. And at the end of the culmination of my trip, I ended up symbolically, literally at the top of a mountain in Washington State. And it was like mad symbolization, because I started in the bottom right corner of the country in South Carolina and ended at the top left of the country in Washington State Olympic National Park. It was wild. And then like I had this crazy thing, and I was just like, wow, I feel like I just read, and like it's like when you die, you see your whole life flash for your eyes. It was something like that, where I felt like I saw everything and then got thrown back into chapter 12. I said, okay, now you have all this information, sort of. It's like too much information for you in your sober self. Like, I don't know if you've tried like ayahuasca or DMT, but a lot of people say that ayahuasca and DMT is similar to getting all the information in the universe and trying to store that on a thumb drive. That's your brain. And I was like, that's a really good way to put it, because I remember the things, but I don't actually remember the things, if that makes sense.
Well, it's funny that you just said chapter also, going way back to chapter 12,
Yeah.
I think you said, because I think our life is made up of different chapters, and like that journey that you went on, there was so much intention behind that journey. And that chapter led you into the next. And this one is going to lead you into your next chapter. And if you do everything that you're passionate about with intention, like you're saying, it's just going to keep opening up new doors. Always, 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 always. And even if like what you thought was your intention doesn't end up happening, there's still intention there because you've learned something about yourself. You can take a different path because the first path wasn't the one. And so like learning from all of this, but like in the beginning, setting that intention helped you to be able to realize, oh, that is or is not what I wanted. And that is what I want to continue to do. Or I want to go in that different direction and set a new intention. And so like we set so many intentions in our lives. We have so many chapters in our lives, but just always doing it, from your heart space, is so important. I love that idea of, the setting intention. I think that is a really cool way to tie all this together because in yoga, many yoga teachers and yoga practitioners will set an intention every time they practice yoga or every time they do breath work. And it could be something so simple. It could be to be happy. It could be to be healthy, to be honest, to be strong, to be grounded. And so as artists, we're also always setting intentions. And so what a beautiful way to like find this merge between like your spiritual self and your artistic self and your career is, like all the intentions can be the same. And it's really a beautiful merge and a beautiful thing to set intentions because it also means that, you have confidence in yourself and you're proud of yourself and you're going to honor yourself until the end of either reaching that intention or, learning along the way of reaching that intention.
Yeah. And testing yourself and going through those experiences where you see yourself go through these massive waves of progress and going this way and then going that way by accident and this thing happens. It for me at least the biggest thing was growing up. I didn't know if it was this or this or this, and I felt like I had to figure it out and then move on. If this didn't work, I was like mad or upset about it. And the more that I've tested myself and done random shit, the more I realized it's just totally okay to just bounce from path 1 to path 2 because you can just come back to path 1 if that's just what happens. And that's okay. Like I literally wanted to be a professional soccer player, and then at 19 I was like, damn, I'm not the best on my college team, and if I'm not the best on my college team, there's a 0% chance I'm going pro. And then I was like, okay, I want to have the best body ever because that'll get me the most girls. And then I got the best body ever, and it worked, but I still hated myself, and I still didn't like, and I still felt fat and all those things. I was like, okay, well, I guess I'm not going to do this. I'm going to do this. And over time, I was like, wow, it's like okay that I just tried all these random things because that's just it,
Totally. You're just learning more about yourself every step of the way and becoming the best version of yourself. And back to like what we said in the very beginning about, like challenging yourself or like becoming a yoga master, the ultimate goal in life is to become a master of you, to become just the best version of yourself, whether that's the best artist, whether that's the best YouTuber, whatever that is. It's just like, of course, you can look to others for inspiration, but you should only be like comparing yourself with yourself. And also not in a judgmental way, but just in a way where it's like, okay, like what can I do differently? What can I do better? What do I not want to do anymore for yourself, for you and you only?
Yeah, that's super powerful. What have you learned from because you've been a yoga teacher and art and you've done a lot of the teaching aspects. Has anything from you teaching other people, what have you learned from that? Especially from younger kids, they have non-barriers that we as adults kind of have that we just kind of set for ourselves sometimes subconsciously, but they usually don't have that. They just say whatever they want and do whatever they want and they worry about it later.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Well, I've worked with so many different children, my gosh. So I could tell you all the different types of children. Some that, like you just said, they don't put up any walls for themselves. They just go with the freaking flow.
Yeah.
And then you have others that, we live in the 21st century and they do compare themselves to others and they do put up walls for themselves because of whatever their life is, whatever their upbringing is. And so it's really interesting, because I work with children with art and yoga. And so I'm not doing like math or science where there's like this specific curriculum that they follow. So every child that I work with, some of them are in 12th grade, some of them are in 6th grade. I see no age. There is no age when I'm with them because whether it's art or yoga, like all these young students that I'm working with have all different abilities and age isn't a factor. It's what they want to give to it. And so some of them, are amazing artists.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I work with some young students who, wow, they blow me away. And like, I have to challenge myself to like find new ways to teach them, but and then there's other students that it takes them a little bit until they really want to create and they might be judging themselves at first. And so that's also where I could tie in art and yoga. Is like yoga is this exploration with your body and art is an exploration, don't be confined to just one material. Don't be confined to one style of art. Mm-hmm. If realistic art isn't your thing, let's go with abstract expressionism. If landscape art isn't your thing, let's go with surrealism. Let's make art that, is from a dream that you had. And so like kind of as a teacher, I build a relationship with my students, and I'm also fortunate because I teach all one-on-one in a very unique education system. Yeah, I'm not teaching to a whole class. I get to teach one-on-one, which is spectacular.
Yeah.
And so I get to really develop a relationship with them and get to know them, what they need as a learner, and then we can, together figure out what they want to do. I mean, right now I have students making anime art,
hell yeah,
Mandalorian art. Oh my gosh. I have people doing surrealism, so cool. Making stuff with an alien coming out of a TV. What are some other amazing things that I got? Oh my gosh, too many good things.
Yeah, I bet.
But it's really cool working with young people. And what's also cool is like I do art and yoga with young people, but then I also do art and yoga with adults. And I think it's whether you're a child or whether you are 70 years old. I mean, art and yoga are two things that we're always going to be learning and trying to become better artists and better yogis. And it's not like you're learning facts, like in math or science. You're learning how to experiment and how to play and how to tune into your creativity and imagination.
Yeah, definitely. It's just crazy too because you'll meet people like probably the biggest. I don't even know if it's a lesson, but one of the weirdest things for me was when I transitioned from school into like the workforce or whatever you want to call it, and I worked my first like job. It was like a serving job, but anyways, I worked with people who were like there was people who were 18 and there was people who were 50s, 60s, and it was the first time I've been treated like an adult or like as a person on the same level versus a kid. When you're a kid, everyone just looks down on you, say you don't understand. Like they say it in a way that's just whatever. And so this first time where I was having a conversation with like someone who's 35 who talks to me as an equal. And I thought that was super like great for me. But it also taught me that there's people in their 30s and 40s who, and at that point I was like, oh, maybe I've learned more stuff than they have, but it's just different life paths. It's just different. You learn things at different places in life, and and I think it's a little easier in this generation now. Like all these kids are so woke because the internet exists, and so we all think we know all these things and whatever. But it is interesting how we all have different total life paths, and people can learn something that's their friend learned at 15 because they went through these life experiences that someone else doesn't learn until they're 50 or 60, and you're like, whoa, that is wild. So what is like do you have to completely realign when you teach someone who's like an adult versus a kid, like completely realign with your teaching, because they are like different ages? But
that's a great question. The way I go about verbalizing things to people, that might be a little different, or the pace that I go. But I don't hold back from talking about the philosophy of yoga with a child versus an adult. Of course, you have to kind of break it down in a different way. Just because some of like the spirituality of yoga, which I also remind them, it's not a religion. It's these, it's philosophies. It's ideas of ways that you can live life. Mm-hmm. And so like, I think most of us don't really go through our spiritual awakening until our 20s. And so to kind of talk about spiritual awakenings or spirituality and like the chakras, or, like our different, energies with children, it can be interesting. It can definitely be an interesting.
I was gonna say, I wouldn't have understood it before that. Like I would just been like, what? I would have been like, okay.
You break it down in different ways, and you kind of give them tidbits, and you see what clicks, and then you can kind of, from there, figure out how to further explain to them things like our chakras, things like, connecting to your higher self, enlightenment, like explaining enlightenment to a 10th grader. It's been some interesting conversations that I've had. But the reason I teach them those things isn't because I think that they I'm trying to enlighten them. It's because in yoga, there are like these 8 limbs of yoga, and the final limb of yoga is to ultimately reach enlightenment. And so just kind of teaching them the idea that like there's a lifelong journey, and ultimately potentially no one really reaches enlightenment. We're all constantly kind of searching for it, just trying to be the best version of ourselves. And so that idea is something that you do also have to break down for some adults, because some adults, like, they have never stepped into a yoga studio. They've never even heard of Reiki. Their algorithm on TikTok is not spiritual TikTok. So, for some people, it is a whole other world they don't even know exists, and they just see it as people are cuckoo who believe in those things. So sometimes you do have some people who walk into like a yoga studio where like adults are going to, and they come up with questions like, what does that mean? What were you talking about? And so you just kind of, in a simple way, start explaining it to them, and they're already open to learning because they walked into the yoga studio and because they've asked you, what do you mean? So it's okay to have a conversation where, you're kind of figuring out with each other, how do we talk about this? And so always having compassion for the people that you're talking to, especially the people who don't understand spirituality or yoga or those things. Always have compassion.
With before you go embark on your journey of self-discovery and all that, it's wild, because when I think about what I was thinking about at 15, I think I've always had this thing where I've always wondered about stuff, but not to the point where I was actually, because I'm like, I feel like when you wake up or whatever the word is and you start to like think about those things, you go, oh, I feel like I thought about this my whole life. But then when I thought about it, I was like, no, I don't think I did, because I remember in college I took a philosophy class, which now I'm like, that would have been sick to be in that class now. But I remember freshman year, I don't think I heard a single thing that man said. Not a single thing. I was thinking about the next soccer game. I was thinking about finishing my homework for my other classes. And now I'm like, wait, I don't think I gave a single fuck, actually. Until I got my heart broken in like the middle of my college and I took drugs and I was like, oh my God, and blah, blah, blah. But it's wild. And I wonder we can talk about psychedelics and your thoughts on that in a sec, but I wanted to hit on this because I don't know who said this, but they talked about an idea of creating your heaven on earth versus the religious sense of like achieving heaven one day once you're dead kind of thing. What are your thoughts on creating your heaven on earth versus that?
Oh my gosh, I love that. And it's so funny that you just gave that exact statement, because I just was recently listening to someone talk about the idea of, only being a good person on earth because their religion believes to go to heaven one day when they are no longer on earth. And it's like, okay, that's amazing that you have that intention, that you want to be a good person to one day go to heaven. But what
Yeah.
about making every day the best day ever? Um, Jake and I, my partner, we have a saying that we always love to say to each other, that every day is a vacation.
Yeah.
In our life, every day is a vacation. We make every day freaking great. Um, so yeah, I mean, no matter what you believe in with afterlife or heaven or whatever comes after death, make every day a vacation. Make every day heaven. Heck yeah. Yeah,
But it's hard, like if you have a job, especially if you don't like your job, I don't know, because when I was having a shitty job, my only thing keeping me going was the fact that one day I won't have to do that job, and that's a hard mentality to be in, to try and make heaven when all you can think about is not being in your situation currently.
yeah.
And honestly, like I don't have much advice other than like, like just
The
get out of
advice
it.
I know, the advice I have is like figure out what you do want. Figure
Yeah.
out what you do want and start taking the baby steps to get there. And then finding joy and, congratulating yourself on those baby steps that it
Hmm.
take to get there, to not have that job, or
Yeah.
to not live in that place, or to not be surrounded by those people that bring you down. Whatever your
Yeah.
thing may be that you're trying to get rid of, like figuring out, okay, what do I actually want? And then
Yeah.
slowly but surely figuring out the steps to get there.
100%.
That's the best advice that you can give, really, because I mean, it is inevitable that everyone's going to face some hardships.
Hmm.
Um, and so finding the right people to also help you through those hardships, not like that they need to carry you through it, because you should, go through those things on your own, but to seek advice from other people and to have someone to hold your hand, or to cheer you on, is really important. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
great question. Oh
100%.
my gosh, that's a hard one.
Yeah, it is tough. And the thing that you said about baby steps, I agree 100%. I have a YouTube series where I basically went from, here's my first podcast. I want to at some point be able to interview, like, I don't know, like build like someone who's like super famous and not
Yeah,
shit my pants, basically, kind of thing. And so I was like, okay, this is the start. And then so you get kind of watch that series. But then also when I decided I want to go on my trip, I was like, look, I can't afford a van that's 20 grand. So I'm just gonna take my mom's current car, buy it off her, and just turn it into a car. And I
awesome.
was like, this series is gonna be literally you watching me take baby steps until in 3 months the car is ready to go and I leave. And that
How
literally
cool.
is exactly what happened. It's wild because I told people at the beginning of that journey, I was like, at some point, this car is going to be good to go. And at that point, I will probably be ready to go because that'll be a 3 month or whatever process of
Yeah.
me getting more and more ready and more baby steps. And literally, there's a video where it's like, okay, it's time to go. Fuck it. I'm quitting all my jobs. Today's the day. And I was so ready. And 3 months before, and I was like, I could probably go right now, but I don't know if I'm ready. That's a
Yeah.
totally different mindset after 500 baby steps.
Oh yeah, the liberation that you feel after you take all those steps, and it's like every step you were like, I did it. Yes.
Yeah,
Okay. On to the next. On to the
exactly.
next.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love that
100%.
story.
Yeah, and this question is for you because of your specific situation with being super in tune with yoga and spirituality, but also being in a relationship. Because I've never
Mm.
been in a relationship where both people are like fully aware of that whole thing, and then also my ex's brother, older brother, is dating this super famous TikTok yoga person. And I
Cool.
saw her video popped up the other day, but they do these like couple yoga, like sitting
Yeah.
positions, and they'll breathe and that stuff. That sounds awesome. That sounds great. Is that something you guys do? Is that something that's great, or
Yes.
does it just look great?
Oh yes. We aren't very like physically doing a pose together, but a huge part of, as we were falling in love was, um, so we met each other a couple months before COVID happened,
Hmm.
before the world shut down. And so pretty much as once the world shut down, we uh, kind of did a 180 with what most relationships do, where, at first they're going out on normal dates, getting to know each other. We kind of
Yeah.
just started living together. Um,
Wow.
it's
That's funny.
basically pretty much how it happened.
Yeah.
And so every day I would lead him and I through a yoga flow.
Mm,
And I swear that's when he fell in love with me,
probably.
because I was able to, challenge him, and he was like, "Oh, damn, this is hard."
Yeah.
And he's a he's a big guy, and he's a football guy, and
Gotcha.
so he definitely likes to challenge himself. But he was so open to, the growth, and to this day he'll get so excited when he experiences growth in like
Hell yeah.
simple poses. And so yeah, yoga is something that we really do share together. And so we like, I love guiding him and I through a flow. But then in terms of like him and I physically doing something together in yoga, a lot of yoga teachers will kind of give assists to the practitioners, maybe like Reiki.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
give them a Reiki, experience while they're doing different yoga poses. And so I do that for him, and it's, it's very intimate and very special for the two of us. So yeah, yoga is a part of our life together for sure.
That's so cool. That is so cool. And then how do you also continue to, this is the biggest thing I see in relationship stuff, is that once you find your person that you're dating and you're in love with them, you just become them basically. And then you're just like, and it's just like you completely lose who you are. And it's only, if ever you break up, that's where you go, oh my God, I've just lost myself. You know what I mean? And I feel like a lot of people have experienced that in relationships. So how do you continue to do that soul searching for yourself when you're in a relationship?
Well, we are ultimately individuals on our own journeys with our own goals. And of course, the reason we fell in love is because a lot of our goals do intertwine in terms of like the things we want in life and the places we want to live, and the type of family that we want to have and the lifestyle that we want to have. But our passions are very different.
Yeah.
I'm into yoga and art. He's a musician. He's a scientist. So he's
nice.
Science brain, very
That's
scientific.
Cool. That's cool.
So we, there's all this ebb and flow of doing things together, but then really enjoying doing things alone. And those things that we enjoy doing alone, we so support each other. He's a part of a chess club. He freaking loves chess, and he goes into chess club.
Is he good?
And I go to yoga. And he'll also come to yoga with me as well. But
that's funny.
So just letting one another be individuals, and then supporting each other in whatever you like to do individually, and asking each other about it and having great conversation about it, but then also finding the things that you really like to do together.
Mm-hmm.
And so really that balance, that yin, that yang, having the yin and the yang in your relationship of, doing your thing on your own, loving your thing, supporting your thing, but then also having your thing together.
Yeah.
That's the goal.
Yeah, that is super cool. Man, I bet everyone listening is like, fuck, one day.
Yes, I had no idea that I would meet my person at the age that I did, but I'm obviously happy that I did. I thought it would take a lot more searching.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, especially nowadays, I feel like there's so many humans out there.
Sure.
And do you want to actually hear how we met? It's kind of hilarious.
Yeah, I'm ready. Hit me.
So it's so funny the different turns that we take in this conversation. Now we're talking about how I met Jake.
Love it.
He's gonna watch this and he's gonna
hear Jake's origin story.
That's not what I thought.
He's like, wait, oh, that is right.
So when I first graduated I went to Penn State. And when I graduated from Penn State, I got my first job in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, which I didn't know a single person in Pittsburgh,
wow.
Literally 0 people.
That's crazy.
But when you get your first job, you're like, I got to take that. Mm-hmm. So I moved to Pittsburgh, and my sister and my mom, they're like, go on dating apps, Katy. You should go on some dating apps. You got to meet someone. And I was like, you're at it. I do need friends.
Yeah.
So I was on the dating apps, semi to make friends, semi to learn about this city that I had no idea what was going on in this city, figure out where are the cool places to go, stuff like that. And then also, maybe I would meet someone, but I like didn't think the dating app thing was a thing.
Yeah.
And so I'm on Tinder one night. I came home after being with some friends. I eventually made friends.
Hell yeah.
I'm good at making friends. But I made some friends and I came home that night and I was like, screw it. I'll get on Tinder. I'm swiping through Tinder. Jake and I matched the next morning. And so the first Tinder date I ever went on.
Oh my God, are you kidding me?
Was with the love of my life.
Wow. Holy shit. What was the date?
We went to this place called Brillo Box, and it's actually a pretty iconic bar in Pittsburgh that actually was a COVID casualty. So we never got to go back after because it had to close due to COVID. But it's been in some movies, actually. It's like this like pretty legendary bar. And they had it decked out with like these crazy vintage Christmas decorations like all over. And so it was like a random Sunday night, and we get there probably like 9 o'clock or something. And they had to kick us out at 2 a.m. because we were just talking so much. We each got one beer and didn't even finish it. We were just having such a great conversation. Yeah. So
was it a loud bar, like a college bar, or was it?
No, it was a Sunday. So I think there was only like one other group of people in there.
That's hilarious. Wow. Damn. Yeah, my first Tinder story was a disaster. It was a girl who lied about her age and then just ghosted me right after.
So you were like kind of catfished, also ghosted.
Yeah. No, I remember when I met her, I was like, wow, she looks exactly like beautiful, amazing, and then just like never heard from her again. I was like, okay.
Dang.
Fantastic. But anyways, this will be quite the transition. I just wanted to hear your thoughts on this because some people link psychedelics with spirituality directly. And I think for me, it's hard because psychedelics was the direct way into the spirituality realm because it just kind of like shattered my reality. And then all these movies where this kind of thing happened made sense in my head. But it was really the start. It was basically me smashing the door down and saying, okay, I'm going down this path. I was wondering what your thoughts are on psychedelics, if you tried it, or even if you want to talk about it.
Totally, yeah, I'll definitely talk about it. So yeah, I started, smoking weed when I was kind of a young gal, and I was really comfortable with it. And I always had friends that made me feel comfortable to do, smoke weed. And so I did, of course, do psychedelics, and to me. I don't drink anymore. I am the type of person that like I don't really need any type of like stimulant or drug to feel good. Yeah. But I do love me some mushrooms.
Me too.
Love me some marijuana.
Man. There he is.
Oh yeah, there's.
Love it.
We have quite a lot in our household as we speak.
Dude. Awesome. I love it.
But yeah, and it's just something where like definitely it was the kickstart in pretty much anyone I know's spiritual awakening.
Yeah.
Because it just helps you to tap into a part of your mind and see the universe and see nature in such a unique way. A way that, I would really love to meet some people and have some great conversations with some people who had a spiritual awakening in their 20s that did know psychedelics to get there.
My sister's one. She took them after, but I was always like, how the hell do you know this shit? I'm like, what are you talking about? I'm like, how you did? She's like, I don't know. I just thought this stuff. So when she tried psychedelics for the first time, she was just like, I was like, yo, so how was it? She goes, yeah, it was fine. It was cool. And I was just like, wow, dude.
It's because she was already woke. She's already a woke human.
Yeah, I think anyone who goes through some really messed up stuff early, maybe they get that side of themselves opened up. Like she had some really, really bad body image issues and depression, or a lot of depression growing up. And so I think that may have been it. Holy shit, she just texted me. That's actually
synchronicity. Synchronicity. Hey, that's the universe. That's what I'm talking about. With the universe.
I'm telling you, every time you take drugs, that's a psychedelic. Something whack happens. You meet someone that you haven't seen in 10 years on the street, and they're just like, "Hey," and you're like, "What?" Like just like weird stuff always happens.
Things like that happen during psychedelics, though, make you realize that it's possible just in your everyday life. And so you just become more aware of those things. You pick up on the synchronicities of life. You pick up on those magical things that happen, or you're just more capable of bringing those magical things to life in conversation and whatever. And so a big thing that I also think with psychedelics is that it's like the first time that in your group of friends that you do those psychedelics with, that you have those conversations about, you know, awakening and whoa, what is going on?
Yeah.
What is this way that I feel? And it opens up the door to be able to talk about that with people. And then from that point forward, whether you continue to microdose or do psychedelics, you know, regularly, or if you don't, you've already opened up the door, and then the conversation can come more fluidly and the thoughts can come without judgment. Instead, you're like intrigued by that way of living and that thought process. It's really awesome. Psychedelics can be so cool in so many ways. It can be a way to tune into your body. It can be a way to tune into music, to art. It can be for great conversation. It can be to just feel wild and connected to nature. I mean, like, oh my gosh, nature. You fall in love with nature on another level when you tap into psychedelics.
It is insane. And I just saw your TikTok. I think you posted today about being wild. I think that was today's TikTok, right?
Yeah.
I love it. Yeah. When well, it's funny. The very first, or not the very first time. One of the first few times I did shrooms, I did it with a couple of my friends. Who one of them was like, if mushrooms was a person, her name was Sarah. That was her. And I remember I was like, this is the person I need to try this with, because I don't typically trip with other people, just because you're in your own thing. You know, it's just kind of hard to like manage. Or something goes wrong, it's like, oh God, like what do we do? And so we did it. It was all three of us, no trip sitter. I don't know if that's supposed to be like, I don't know. Everyone has their own different thing. But anyways, we did that. And so we walked around downtown, and we ended up on this common area where there's like a big field and beautiful trees and stuff. And we were like under this big tree with the shade, and we were just sitting there. We were looking at like all the dogs and whatever. And then I look over, and she's sitting there like, you know, the bicycle movement, the ab crunch bicycle thing. But she was doing it like in a very flowy thing. She wasn't trying too hard. And I looked at her, and I didn't even have to ask her. It's like telepathy. And I was just like, what are you doing? And she's just like in tune with her body. She's like, I just want to like feel my body moving. And we just sat there and stretched for like an hour. And it was insane how good it felt.
Stretching, dancing, yoga feels so freaking good. So good. Yeah. Want to hear my story the first time I did it?
Yeah.
So I lived in Australia for like 4 months. That's where I did the little study abroad experience.
Cool.
Yeah, amazing.
Cool. Very cool.
And so I was kind of I knew I wanted to try psychedelics years before I did it, but I kind of also like wanted it to be right time, right place, right people. And so I just was kind of in this mindset of like continuously wanting to learn about it until I felt and hear other people's experiences until like I really felt comfortable. And so, do you know like the Sydney Opera House, like that big landmark in Sydney, Australia? It's like that big dome.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like there's just like this big. It's an opera house, and it's like this big dome building. And so every year in Australia, in Sydney, Australia, they do this like extravagant light show where the entire city of Sydney is lit up with lights and colors. So freaking cool. For a whole month, every night the light show happens all throughout the city. And so the Sydney Opera House, what they do is they have some type of digital graphic designer create a whole light show that is on repeat, that is like being broadcasted onto the dome. And so do you know Jonathan Zawada?
I don't know.
Look him up.
What's his name?
Jonathan Zawada. He's Flume's visual artist. So you know, like Flume, the DJ. He's Flume's visual artist. Yeah, you gotta look up his mushroom art specifically.
Mushroom art. All right, I'm looking it up right now. All right, keep telling me about him.
Zawada. So he was the visual artist that was chosen to have his art being. Just imagine this huge dome with artwork, trippy artwork, just on repeat for 6 hours, just being broadcasted across this entire dome. And so two of my friends and I were like, this is where we are going to trip for the first time, is at the Um, so Jonathan's, oh, it's Z is the last name. Yeah, ZAW.
Like
Yeah,
that.
I think that's right. It might be one T, but that, yes.
There it is. So it's this.
Yes.
It's this art.
Yes. So, and he makes so much more than just mushroom art. He is phenomenal. But this is one of my favorite series that he's done is the mushroom art.
Very
and
cool.
So yeah. So my first time tripping was walking around this amazing light show, and just so euphoric, sitting next to this like one of the most famous buildings in the world as a trippy light show is being broadcasted onto it, just lying down like, oh my God, this is amazing.
That is insane.
So yeah, that was my first time. Then there's been like 100 times since then. But yes.
Wow.
Yes.
That is so cool. Yeah. Psychedelics are something else. They're definitely something else. And I feel like it's just another way to explore yourself. I think people put it in this own category where it's like it's this, it's that, and it's like it's just kind of like it's all like a level playing field. I feel like it's just another thing you could do.
Yeah.
And I think the best thing I've learned from psychedelics after trying it is it just opened my mind in general. It just opened everything. It's like, okay, everything's okay. It's like there's almost no conversation. If someone just brought it out to me, and if someone random person walked up in the street and just started pouring their life out to me, I'd be like, yeah. I'm not surprised. I'm not like weirded out. I'm just like, all right. Yeah. But like, I've been in my head, I'm like, I feel like if I did that to someone else, they'd be so thrown off, so confused. And for me, I'd just be like, oh, all right, cool. I'm down. I've been waiting for someone to walk up to me and do that. Like an old man at a bench, come up and sit and just say something woke and just break my reality. I'm like waiting for that to happen.
Yeah, that's what I think is really cool about energy is being able to pick up on certain people's energies. And I think like if you're radiating an energy where like you're open to people coming up and talking to you, like you're going to be a magnet for that.
Yeah.
And so, if you're open to it, it's going to happen for sure.
Yeah, for sure. Well, damn. I feel like we just covered like a literally 100 different topics in an hour and a half. That was insane.
I know.
That was so much fun. And my camera's definitely gonna die in a few minutes here.
Yes.
So I wanted to hit you with one last like a fire off question. What's your number one I guess tip for anyone wanting to get involved in spirituality? Or like they maybe they just want that push. They just don't know how. Like, is there a way to get started that maybe isn't taking drugs? For most people, I feel like that's like a pretty big step.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I think like a really, really simple thing. This is just the first thing that came to my mind is like journaling. Like every morning, waking up and journaling and setting an intention for what you want that day to be like for you. And that could involve some visualization, or that could just be something so simple. And then maybe it's like your mantra throughout the rest of your day. And so that idea of setting an intention, having that sacred time just for you where you're coming up with that intention, and then throughout the rest of your day, going back to it, whether that is today I am wild, or whether that is today I am peaceful, or today I am open to new opportunities. Today I am open to new relationships.
Yeah.
And that is like a really simple way that I feel like someone could get into spirituality. Because even if just people may be like, what? That's spirituality? Yeah. That is totally spirituality.
That's a great tip. And for anyone still listening, we appreciate you guys being in here. I'm sure it's wild because there's always people in the podcast who stay from the very beginning to the very end. So we definitely appreciate anyone who did that. And anyone who's watching not live after this goes up. Thank you so much for watching. That was so much fun. Katy Lames, yoga teacher, artist, NFT artist, by the way. All her links are down in the description. That was super fun. And code word, if you made it to the end, is going to be what? What should we do the code word? Just for people to...
Prana.
Prana. Prana, right?
Yes. Code
word, prana. Here's how you spell it. Guys, thank you so much for being in here. Again, all her links in the description. Follow her. What even is my outro? Oh, yeah. Continue on your joyage. Continue to learn. I'm grateful you're live watching this video. Bye, y'all.